Hello and welcome to hobby vlog number 8. It's Saturday evening and I'm just sitting down in room 13 to get some hobbying done. So there may be some more stuff that I do that goes onto the vlog that's done this evening, but what I can tell you is up till now there is Balin's tomb, there is some work on the Sarissa MDF Buildings, and also I complete the Hobbit Holes. It's been a good week, which has included Christmas, which makes it an even better week. And I'm quite pleased that I've managed to get a bit of time since Christmas to do more hobbying. So I'll stop whittering now and let you watch the rest of the vlog, and I'll be back when I am done for the week. After what feels like a very long wait, I have finally received the roofing tiles from Sarissa so that I can complete the Sarissa MDF building roofs. As it is cold today and I don't have much time for hobbying, I have not bothered to light the fire up in room 13, and I'm going to actually do these downstairs in the kitchen where it's warm. What I have is this roof to complete, for which I'll be using these tiles. And I also have this roof which I half did, and the other smaller sections from the same building here, and these I have all these tiles to do. Hopefully I now have enough. I'll be sure to introduce you to my results as soon as I am completed. I ended up having a very productive time with these the first time I tried, and got nearly all of them done that evening, and then a little bit of time passed and now I've finally finished. So what you can see here is that I've put the tiles on the whole of the roof, and then I've put a ridge line down the top, which is just made out of a thin card, actually from the inside of a wrapping paper tube. And I've finished that one, and I've also done the other roof. So the next thing to do is going to be to paint them with these spray cans. You would have thought that I would have known this, having been an archer in real life, but I'm about to paint the archery target for the Hobbit Hole, and I have gone onto Google Images to double check what colours it needs to be. And as you can see from that, it is white on the outside, black, blue, red, then yellow. So if we count this, it's going to be yellow in the middle, it's going to be red there, it's going to be blue there, and it's going to be black there. Now that means that we're not going to have the white surround. So I'm going to get started on that, and I'll show it to you when it is completed. We have got to the end of this build. I have the final piece to put in place. I have painted the target, and I'm going to glue that on right here. So let's get that done, and when that is done, I will come back with all of the Hobbit holes to show you what they look like. A big thumbs up for these sculpts to Adam Brookas. And so finally, well, I say finally, but this has been one of the quicker builds I've done. I have completed the 3 Hobbit holes. I'm very happy with how they've come out, and I'd like to show them to you and wrap this video up. So first of all, there's the small one, the blue one, which is what I did on camera most of the time. You can see that I've put some coloured flock on it, and I think that has come out very nice indeed. I'm very pleased. Secondly, the middle-sized one, the green one. This one has some clump foliage on it, as well as a couple of different colours of flock and some tufts. And finally the large one, and this is where our friendly archer lives. And you can see there, right at the front, there is the archery butt waiting to be made use of. You can see that he's got a flowering bush here, so not only is he an archer, but he is also a gardener. I'm very pleased with how these have come out, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, there's much kudos to Small Scenics for producing these lovely kits. I've got a little bit more to do on the actual assembly of at least one of the Sarissa MDF buildings, and what I'm doing is I'm putting in place the porch supports. So as per usual, a little bit of PVA, not too much, just on the contact points, and then carefully put it into place. And that's that. Then any excess you may have, you can wipe away with your brush, and that will actually make the bond stronger as well by smoothing it around. So with that in place, the next thing to do is to stick the fascia on, which is going to go across here. Now, where would I apply the glue in this case? As you can see, it's going to sit there and it's going to go along here, and it's going to also have a contact point along here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my glue where I think the contact points are going to be. So down the uprights and along the bottom. There you are. Now, if you're watching very closely, you will have seen that the uprights are not yet secure when I'm doing this. So these bits sticking out from the wall. And the reason I'm doing it with those still damp is because it's allowing me to adjust them to be exactly and completely in place. And it will prevent that swearing that happens when you find that you didn't actually position them correctly, and now this front fascia doesn't fit correctly. So I will now leave that to go off. That is enough, and we'll go and pick something else up. It's really nice to see this progressing. So the next step is going to be doing the porch roof. What I'm doing is I will assemble this section here, which has 4 triangular shapes, and then when I'm ready, when this is dried, I will then stick the cardboard on top. This is a pretty standard Sarissa method and works very well. This has PVA on it at the moment. When that is dried enough, maybe in a couple of minutes, I'll invite you back and we will put the roof on. This sub-assembly is now dry enough for me to hold upside down, as you can see. So that means it is ready for me to glue onto the roof. For this, I do like to have it upside down. It makes it a little bit more stable. What I will do is I will apply my PVA, not paint at all, is it? My PVA to the sub-assembly here. So I can be as accurate as possible and get the PVA exactly where I need it. With that done, I will now turn it upside down and press it into place. My hand is probably in the way, I do apologise. There we are. And then, within easy reach, I have, as I reach, clamps. You can never have too many clamps. That should probably be Beard Clipper's official motto, because I strongly believe it. They're really useful. They're useful because they save you from making silly mistakes, like this not quite lining up, or it slipping when you're moving it and you're not noticing, and then suddenly your model falls apart. It's a good idea to have lots of clamps. And what I will do is simply clamp it in place, not very hard. As you can see, they're slipping a bit, but they don't need to be massively tightly done. It's just to hold it in place. So I'll get that done, and I'll be back when this is dry and I'm painting it. Having looked at this for a little while, I've realised that there are a couple of things I need to do before I can progress. The first one is make it the correct width. These cross pieces are actually maybe 5 or 6 millimeters too long and are pushing the edge of this wall, or whichever way, over the bottom of the cardboard base. So what I need to do is measure up and cut. To assist me in this, I'm making use of these corner mates, which are corner clamps that I picked up from Wish, and they are very good. I will attempt to remember to put a link in the description below. They work with a spring, so they do give you a little bit of a strength workout to use. If you're not strong-handed, you might struggle. But you literally, simply compress the spring, drop it in place, release the spring, and then it holds it very, very firmly. And these are actually the best corner clamps I've come across yet. And I've had a few that have broken on me. So I will get on with doing this. I'm going to have to clamp the other 2 corners for now, and then measure and cut, and then I'll come back with my next steps. I've done my measuring and I've worked out how much I need to take off, which is that much, which is about what I guess, about 6mm. But I thought I'd show you that I bought myself a new metal ruler for this purpose. That other one was a little bit dangerous. This one, it gives you a really good ridge there where you can put your fingers in, and then when you get your knife, you're no longer at risk of slicing your hand. I'm not going to do this on camera because I'll be at a very odd angle if I do so, but I did just want to show off this new safety ruler. I would recommend anyone that's using a knife for cutting polystyrene or XPS grabs themselves one of these. They're not expensive on Amazon, and it will save your fingers from becoming sliced. I have completed measuring and cutting these cross pieces to the correct size, and that will now fit very nicely on this cardboard base. So that's pretty good. My next step is to reduce the height at the back. Now I have talked about this before, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be dropping this wall at the back here and across and all the way around where Balin's tomb actually sits. And now I've decided to make it 6 inches. Now if we look at this square, this back edge here is 6 inches high, and so that's going to be quite a nice size. It's not going to be so small that it doesn't look imposing, but it's also, if you see, about the height of my hand, and so you're going to be able to get in there quite nicely, move miniatures around and actually have it as a playable area. So I'm going to get on with that. I'm making use of these amazing corner braces. I'm going to be ordering some more. They're brilliant. I wish I had 8 now, and I'll be back when I've done to show you what that looks like. So there you have it, the cutting is done, and I'm pleased with that. You can see here that it is plenty easy to play, even right up against the edge of the walls. You can reach all the way across the playing area, but this front area is still very imposing and does look amazing. I'm in 2 minds about whether I'm going to go ahead and stick that in place now or wait until I've had another think. To be honest, it's getting late, so I probably will finish now. That's been a really productive short session there. I'm back to work tomorrow. This is actually Boxing Day, so the end of Boxing Day. I've got an hour or so in the hobby room, so I'm probably going to call that there and come back to it another time when I have a little more time to maybe reconsider and then glue it in place. The next thing to do on the field is to put another coat of the brown paint over where all of the sand is. This will both act as an additional sealant and also give the colour that I'm looking for, because it's very light at the moment with the sand on it. Now if you like that colour, then what you do at this stage is you put PVA and only PVA without any paint on it, because you may like that kind of dark brown with a bit of sandiness over the top, but it's certainly not what I'm looking for here. So I'm going to do that. I'm not going to bore you with music or speeded up bits, and when it's done then I will let that to dry. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. So that has been painted, and what I would like to point out is that around the pond I have actually put some brown paint that's overspilled. That's deliberate. I will be coming back to the pond at another time, but as Luke will tell you, ponds are not blue, water is not blue, and so this will be a brown and green and murky kind of colour, and then I'll put some of the water effects over the top. But I've deliberately gone so that the brown has actually gone onto the wood, because that will help me when I get to that process. So now this will be left to dry, and I will pick something else to do in my hobby time. I've made some good progress on these Sarissa MDF buildings. I've worked very hard on the roofs and have finished tiling and spray painting them. There is some weathering to do, but for now I'm quite happy with how they look. The roofs here are not good, and so is the pig pen with the couple of little ducks. What I have yet to do, I have purchased a couple of 28mm riderless horses, which I'm going to need to paint up and put into place. These were just picked up from eBay, just from an eBay search, and my idea is that at least one of them will be used on this and will have its head sticking out. So I'll cut the door in half so it looks like a stable door, which it is, a stable door, and we'll put the head of one of these horses sticking out. I'm not yet decided whether I'm going to have that roof removable or not. Part of me is thinking I won't, but yeah, it's something to think about as I go forwards. The thing that I'm going to do immediately now, however, is work on the wood store at the back. Now I'm going to put the roof, again, is going to be made up with the coffee stirrers, but I'm going to make use of this stick which I've picked up from outside. I'm going to cut that up and I'm going to put that in as wood that's in storage in the wood store, very much like we have here at home. So that's my task for now. I'll get cracking on that and we'll show you what it looks like when it is done. So that is done, and we're on shaky cam, so this is not going to be a long segment, but you can see that inside there we have a whole pile of wood that is now drying with PVA on it, and it looks very good. I'm very pleased. So I'm going to leave that now. I've got a few other things to do downstairs in the warm because it's cold up here tonight, so that's going to be me done for the evening, I think. But it's been a good evening, so that's not a bad way to sign off. I made a little bit of progress in this last night without the camera running for whatever reason, and what I've done is I've glued the short end wall in place and left it overnight. I've done that with the gator glue, which is superb, and it does seem to have stuck. The reason I've had to do it like this, and the reason why potentially I didn't film, is I was fettling a lot. I do need more of these to achieve to glue two walls at the same time on a square, because you need to clamp top and bottom. But not just that, it's actually a T-shape at the bottom that you're clamping, and I don't have anything there that would work, so I've just done one L wall, and what I'm about to do is the other wall. So we will take these clamps off. I have now ordered more, so they will be coming at some point, I do not know when. And what I will be doing is I'll be gluing this wall in place, which is right here, and my plan is to use the corner clamps on the top, and then from inside the doorway, you can see that I tried and failed. You can see that there's some gator glue on the end, but from inside the doorway to there I have clamps that are long enough to clamp round to the end, and that should then keep it safe. So I will get stuck into that and I will invite you back when it is done. After a little bit of juggling, that's done, and actually that's worked quite well. You can see I've got these long clamps that are going from the door to the outside, and that's pressing the bottoms together, and then I'm holding in place with the same corner clamps, and I've actually still got two on the back because I didn't need them for this, so I've left them there to give it some rigidity. This will be much more secure as soon as I've got this attached to the base, but I don't want to do that yet. I wanted to put this in place to give this some strength before I actually cut out the this area here, which is going to have the pillars that you see in the entrance towards Balin's tomb. So that will now be left until later, for several hours to go off, and then I will bring you back for the next stage of this build when I get to it. It's a little later on in the day, and this is now set up nicely. So what I'm going to do now is glue it to the cardboard base. This will mean that I can then get started on the terrain that's going to go inside Balin's tomb, including a little corridor type thing by the door, some pillars, some platforms, and of course Balin's tomb itself. So I have some very big clamps piled up to one side, and what I'm going to do is glue that down and clamp it in place and then leave it overnight. What was it I said about clamps? You can never have too many? Well, that's pretty much all of those large clamps that I own, and it's only just enough, so probably need to pick some more up if I'm going to do builds like this again. But I think that's going to work, and I will now, as I say, leave that to go off overnight. As I get ever closer to completing these builds, there are a few small tasks that I need to get stuck into. On this one, I'm going to paint these areas here and just inside here with white paint to match the plastering that I've done. And the reason I'm doing that is so that it is possible for me to remove these roofs should I wish to. So I have some normal acrylic hobby paint, not even Vallejo, just something from a supermarket, and I'm going to paint on that, and I think it'll probably take 1 or 2 coats. So I'm going to get started on that, and I will show you what it looks like when it is done. There you are, that didn't take very long to paint these areas white. And now, while that's drying, I'm going to put the coffee stirrers on the roof of the woodshed. And there we have it. I have used the chop it to trim down some coffee stirrers, and they are now PVA'd on, and I will let that to dry, and we'll come back to that a bit later on, maybe tomorrow. Next I'm going to put some colour on the walls for this Sarissa building, and Angela came up with the idea of painting it roughly the same colour as the old school where I live, and I found this paint which looks like it'll be quite close. It's not exact, but it should be close enough. It's quite a rich dark yellow, and that will hopefully go very nicely with the colour of the roofs that I've gone for, and will really glow. So I'm going to put that on the wood now, and I will show you what it looks like when I have done. I've done 2 coats of this yellow, and I've realised that this model I'd actually not treated with my MDF sealant, which is why it's taken 2 coats to get here, and it'll probably take another couple. So there's a indication of just how useful that MDF sealant is. However, I'm very happy with the colour. You can see that I've temporarily placed this roof in, and it really does pop quite nicely. So that's very good. I'm going to let that to dry for a bit, and then I'll come back and do another coat a bit later on. The next step on this building is to do the walls. Now for that I'm going to use a different technique. I've got this sandpaper, which is 120 grit sandpaper, which has a really interesting texture and an interesting finish. And I think that that will look very nice just glued over the walls. So I'm going to give that a go. I'm going to do that on the outside. I haven't decided if I'll do it on the inside as well, but I might do. So I will get myself set up, and I may well invite you along to at least the first part of this so you can see how I'm doing it. So let me get myself set up, get knives and rulers and what have you, get all my tools, and then I will let you join me as I try this new technique. I did start filming a watch me while I do this, and then I stopped because it wasn't going very well. But what I've done is I've practiced a bit, and I've done the back wall here with my sandpaper, and I've also done that section there with the sandpaper. And now I'm tired and I'm going to call it a night. It's about 10 p.m. and we have a busy day tomorrow. I will try to get a how I do this in the vlog this week, but it's highly unlikely, and you may have to wait till next week to see that, and I apologise in advance. So we'll see how tomorrow morning goes, and if I can get a little time in the morning just to shoot a short segment. So you will know when you watch this very shortly whether I achieved that or not, but until then I'm pretty happy with the effect it's giving, and that is all that matters to me. And I will show you how to do it either in this vlog or in the next. It's relatively early Sunday morning. I've been up since just after 4 with Rosie, and now I'm going to show you how I was doing the technique with the sandpaper. I'm feeling a lot rested, funnily enough, even despite the early start. So I will get myself pointed down, and this time I will show you how I'm going about doing this technique. The tools I'm using are my safety cutting ruler and another ruler with slightly more detailed gradations on it, an X-Acto blade and a pencil, and that's it. I have 120 grit sandpaper, which has the interesting coloration on it, which I like quite a lot. And I have 2 options for securing it. I have 3M craft mount or PVA glue. Now the craft mount works best in terms of speed because, well, it just does, and the PVA works best in the sense of not gassing yourself when you're using it, but you will need to clamp it and secure it in place. So there's a kind of little bit of a payoff there, which one you want to do. I'm going to be working on this shape here on the back, which actually is going to be repeated 3 times. So what I'm going to do is create a blank, which I will do using paper, I think, and then transfer that blank onto my sandpaper, and then finally glue that in place. So first of all, I will mark out that template. Now, one thing that I do have to be aware of is that I was initially going to plaster this, and so I put these little strips of wood. These are now in the way, so I'm having to take them off, and the way I'm doing that is with the X-Acto blade. I'm very carefully, it doesn't matter so much if you damage the building underneath, but very carefully running the knife down just to separate it, and they then come off. They were glued on with PVA, but obviously that means that they are quite well stuck on, but they're also very thin, so you can kind of carve them off, as you see. So with that now a relatively clean edge, what I will do is get just some normal copier paper, put that down on my side, and do some tracing. It's just like being at school. So there we are, I am an artist, as you can see. Now what I will be doing here is transferring the length to that little upward notch that I've done onto the bottom. So we will measure, and we will find that that is very nicely exactly 11.5 centimetres, 115 millimetres. So we will go to the bottom and transfer that. There we are. And then there is our little template. Now, using my X-Acto blade and my safety ruler, because I don't like scissors, I will very simply cut this template out. Now I'm going just on the inside of the lines, because I'm going to be drawing around this, so I don't want it to be oversized. There we have it. So let's have a check of that against the building. Always double check your work. That's going to work very well. And then if I do it the other way around, it's also going to work for that end as well. Isn't that great? So now that I've got my template, let's put the knife away briefly. What I will do is I will get the sandpaper. Oh, you know what? I wouldn't normally do this, but what I'm going to do is try and show you this sunset, which is occurring out of the window, filthy as it is right now. Look at that. I know the window is dirty, but wow, I am very lucky where I live. Beautiful. Right. Back to the matter at hand. Sorry for that little diversion then. Beautiful. So, back to this. So I've got my template, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer that over onto the sandpaper on the back. So first of all, we will make sure to get it nicely square and in place. And then, with the pencil again, we will mark around it. It's not square, nor is it in place. There we are, that's better. This is where potentially using a heavier paper might have been useful, but this is going to be okay. There we are. So that's the first one, and we do need to do the second one rotated the other way, don't forget that. So once again, I will offer that up to the corner, because that's going to be the easiest way to get two straight edges and a 90 degree. That sun is coming through lovely now, beautiful. There we are, so now I have the two shapes. What I'll do is, you've guessed it, X-Acto blade, safety ruler, and start slicing. With these cut out, it's now simply a case of gluing them in place. Now I'm going to use the 3M craft mount, and for that I'm going to pause the video, go and spray that outside because it is a bit nasty, and then I will show you when these are glued in place. But simply you put a very thin overspray over the areas you want to glue it on, press it in place, and then it's done. It's a very, very good way to do it. PVA is an option if you don't have this, but as I said, you will need to use your clamps and it will take a bit longer to dry, and I want to get this done so I can go back downstairs and get this published. So I will get that done and I will be back when that is completed. So that is done. And as you can see, it's looking really rather nice. Do bear in mind if you are using the craft mount that you will need to give it a little tap every now and then. Just pay attention if it's rising or bending a little bit. It does go off quite quickly. It's much quicker than the PVA, but you still need to pay some attention. So what I will now do is fill in that gap in the middle, and then that wall is done. It's a very quick technique. I think it gives a great finish, and I'm very pleased with how that's looking now. And so we reach the end of another vlog, the 8th vlog, and the end of a year. The next time you see me in the vlog, it will be 2020. How did that happen? Let me raise my ginormous cup of tea to you and give you a toast. Bit cold. I've worked a bit long up here today. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to be informed whenever I do another video, please ding the bell. That way that YouTube will tell you when one of these videos goes live. Don't forget to comment below as well if you've got anything to say about anything you've seen in this vlog, and please do let other people know about Beard Clipper. It's brilliant to know that there are people out there watching these and enjoying them, and I certainly hope that there are more of you to come shortly. Thank you very much again for watching Beard Clipper, and Happy New Year!